ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to tonight's show. I have Penny L.A.Shepard in the background. Right now, I am in the dark with no power. We're going live. So this is interesting. So we are having open mic night tonight. So we have no idea what we're going to talk about. So let me welcome everybody. And Penny, are you backstage somewhere? Hello? There she is.
¿Cómo está?
Hey, big A's. Well, I haven't seen the microphone in ya. So how are you doing?
That's not Spanish.
No, it's German. I don't know how to speak Spanish.
I am German.
Burrito.
I did not realize that I thought I was American, but apparently I'm German.
Yeah, well, so tell us a little bit about yourself. Well, we got this creepy music in the background.
It's creepy. The theme from either X-Files or from Stranger Things. I found a background theme. It's called Stranger Thinks, for copyright purposes.
Really? Yeah, and that's the truth.
I use it in one of my promos. So my name is Penny L.A.Shepard. I am a co-host and executive producer of the Dark Outpost with David Zublik and myself. And then we just started a new segment. It's called the Awake Nation. It's our news segment of the Dark Outpost. So we open up with the Awake Nation. And tomorrow, if you catch us on Rumble, it's in David Zublik channel. Look for Dark Outpost, David Zublik, Zublick, and Penny L.A.Shepard, as in Los Angeles, California, Shepard, which I lived there for about 38 years. We will be broadcasting starting at 8 a.m. Central Standard Time. That's 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then we complete our show at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time, and that's 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And the guests that we're going to have on tomorrow are from the Ohio train derailment.
No way.
2 families from there. And then we have an investigative reporter, which we started working with. His name's Johnny Mack. Really love Johnny Mack a lot.
So what's the deal on this train derailment? Because everybody is talking about it. They're comparing it to movies. Now I compare it to 2 movies, right? The what was the one? The Super 8mm. Remember the kid ones?
8mm. You always say that.
I know it's 8mm
it was Super 8. But
yeah, Super 8.
Peter's the one with Nicolas Cage.
Nicolas Cage. I always get those confused. Right. And that's the one where the kids, hello, Bob Perry. Welcome back from Knoxville, Tennessee. He's over here chuckling.
Good evening.
But, they're actually out there at nighttime filming and making a zombie movie, right? And this train derails and like this alien creature is like unleashed. But there's another movie that the media is comparing it to.
Yes, I'll have to look that up real quick.
That's terrible. Does anybody know? Bob, you know the name of that movie we're talking about? That train movie? Not the one that runs and goes loose where everybody's trying to catch up with the train before it wrecks in that curve. So
let me just see.
I want to say to everybody, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, in Facebook land. All the admins and moderators for letting us go live in their Facebook groups. Greatly appreciate that. We are live with Penny L.A.Shepard with the Dark Outpost. Very interesting show. I'm on there every Thursday at 12 o'clock Eastern time. So I love the show. It's on Rumble. I'm also on Rumble now. It's Grizzly on the Hunt all together. Grizzly on the Hunt all together. Please make sure and sign up for both of our shows. And also, if you're watching, please subscribe and like our show too. I greatly appreciate that and follow us. So did you find the name of the movie?
I did. It's called White Noise, starring Adam Driver and Greta Gerwig.
I was going to say that, but I didn't.
It was released on Netflix last year. It was adapted from an acclaimed 1985 novel by American writer Don DeLillo. The film follows a death-obsessed academic driver and his family. The weirdo thing is that the guy he teaches about Hitler. One of the biggest plots in both the book and the film concerns a train crash, which released a huge cloud of toxic chemicals into the air, referred to somewhat euphemistically as the airborne toxic event. Viewers have pointed out similarities between the disaster as it is depicted in the film and the recent spill in Ohio. In an interview with People, East Palestine resident Ben Ratner, who featured as an extra in White Noise, spoke about the strange parallels. Talk about art imitating life, he said. This is such a scary situation, and you can just about drive yourself crazy thinking about how uncanny the similarities are between what's happening now and that movie. Fears continue to mount over the long-term effects of the disaster, with reports already suggesting that local wildlife has been thrown into jeopardy. It's been more than thrown into jeopardy. I believe
It's killing species.
at last count, I think it was 44,000, including fish, and deer and varied wildlife have disappeared. There are our reporter on the ground, Johnny Mack, said there are no birds whatsoever.
See, now that's weird because, now I'll be honest with you, ladies and gentlemen, where I live right now, that is actually coming through where I live. I live not far from the Ohio River. Okay. So a lot of people in this region actually gets our water through there. And they actually showed a picture of the contaminated water mixed with the Ohio River water, and you can tell the difference by visual, right?
Yes.
But not only that, but people were on Facebook and TikTok, and you can buy these kits over the counter to test your own water coming out of your tap, and it was like off the charts. And the government saying, hey, it's okay to drink, but then they would take the same test and use bottled water. And it was like, oh my gosh, what's going on? And ladies and gentlemen, Facebook took down all my posts about the train interrupt. Yes, they did.
Wow.
They said it was fake news.
What's the age?
Yep, fake news. Now, how can that be fake news?
This happened, for people that don't know, this happened on the 3rd of February. A 50-car train derailment in the small town of East Palestine caused a leak of chemicals, including vinyl chloride, butyl acrylate, ethyl hexacrylate, and ethylene glycomonobutyl ether. More than 2,000 residents were ordered to evacuate nearby buildings due to health concerns with the leak, but have since been allowed to return. Now, what Johnny Mack is saying is that when they burned it, it turned into mustard gas.
See, now that's what I heard. Now, I couldn't confirm that because, unfortunately, when stuff like this happens, they censor everything, right? Now, hello, Scarborough, Sasquatch Station,
Hola.
saying hello. Now, I know from the Fish and Wildlife standpoint that anytime that you poach or you do something that harms the environment, right, that you have to pay some type of restitution for not only the cleanup, but also for any animal that has been killed because of the accident or your, I don't want to say maltreatment because that's doctors, but what's the word I'm looking for, Penny?
Malfeasance.
Yes. So, and Norfolk have they still not said anything, or they came forward and said, yes, this is what we're going to do, or what's
there's a lot of things being done and not being done. For instance, Peter, and I can't say his name right, so I'm just going to say Butthead because it's close enough.
I gotta love her.
He was Secretary of Transportation, and he also, not that it makes any difference, but he is a very liberal individual and also gay. And he decided that he was not going to show up there for several weeks. That's his job. And at the same time this happened, Biden was over in the Ukraine giving away billions of dollars to Zelensky.
I still don't understand that. And I meant to bring that up on my other show. I have it spooled up somewhere to where he actually was asking for, and correct me if I'm wrong, young American people to come to fight his war.
Well, he wants everything. He wants the Americans to come and fight. He wants billions of dollars. He wants, I believe he might be, and this is just just throwing it out there, actually also asking for nukes.
Well, here's the deal, ladies and gentlemen. I don't understand, first off, why we don't take care of ourselves, number one. Okay. I never have understand that. We can give billions and billions of dollars to anybody around the world that has a crisis, a natural disaster. We would have cargo planes full of water and food and first aid and everything and ready to go on the tarmacs. But when it comes to our own American soil, it's like, not me. Tag, I'm not it. So what's going on with that?
Initially, they didn't have the EPA there, and Erin Brockovich showed up. You remember her? She was involved.
Yes, Erin Brockovich. Yes.
What was her case? Do you remember?
Yeah, she actually was the fur trade where they were using the chemicals on the pelts that were leaching into the soil, causing cancer and birth defects. And
her case was against Pacific Gas and Electric Company, PG&E, involving the groundwater contamination in Hinckley, California. With the help of attorney Ed Masry in 1995, the successful lawsuit was the subject of the Oscar-winning film Erin Brockovich in 2000, starring Julian Roberts as Brockovich and Albert Finney. I said that she looked a lot like, or Erin looked a lot like her, but I was talking to somebody who's a costume designer. She worked on that film, and she said actually they don't really look that much alike. So because of that case regarding PG&E and the groundwater contamination, she got a claim. But I believe it says she works as a consultant for a New York law firm, Waite and Luxembourg, which has a focus on personal injury claims for asbestos, and Shine Lawyers in Australia. She worked as a consultant for a now defunct California law firm, Girardi and Keese. These must be not as well known firms, because I work for some very high powered law firms for over 40 years as a technologist, a legal word processor. I offered support. Johnny kept mentioning looking for rainbows. Check these two photos I took at work right after sunrise this morning. Oops, I'm standby. I'll email them, Penny.
Now, Bob just sent that. I want to make sure and send it. But you know what? Here's the deal, okay? And I'm glad Erin's stepping up, because she's got a track history. She's got a record. She don't care. She's a country girl. She grew up poor, dirt poor, didn't have nothing to her name, and she fought for the people.
Mm-hmm.
Now, why isn't our government and the EPA doing the same thing right now? I mean, are they even started on trying to contain this? Because last time I heard, it was like, oh, don't worry down there in Kentucky. When it gets down there, all the chemicals and everything will be diluted, so you'll be fine.
Now we can conjecture about this, but again, tomorrow we're gonna have some actual Vics that live in that town tell us what's going on.
Well, actually, somebody else brought up another town that's been on my radar, Flint County in Michigan. What happened with their water tables? Do you know any history on that?
No. I know there was something about
Flint, Michigan.
I thought that was what she had worked on. It wasn't.
No. Flint, Michigan, their water is so bad they are not able to drink it. They have to get bottled water, and I don't think they can even boil it.
Okay, so that was in 2014.
Yeah, but it's still going on today.
Right.
And the people, the poor citizens of Flint County, are having this. I mean, what are we paying taxes for? Quit sending money to people that are wanting to fight, defend their little country for whatever reason. Let's worry about our people. I don't get it. Am I like the only one? Rick says it's mercury that's in the water. I don't know. That may be true. I don't remember right offhand.
Water crisis. I'll just read what it says in Wiki. Was public health crisis. It started in 2014 after the drinking water for the city of Flint, Michigan was contaminated with lead and
Yes, that
possibly
is correct.
Legionella
Yes.
bacteria. In April 2014, during a budget crisis, Flint changed its water source from treated Detroit Water and Sewage Department water source from Lake Huron in the Detroit River to the Flint River. Residents complained about the taste, the smell, and the appearance of the water. Officials failed to apply corrosion inhibitors to the water, which resulted in lead from aging pipes leaching into the water supply, exposing around 100,000 residents to elevated lead levels. A pair of scientific studies confirmed that lead contamination was present in the water supply. The city switched back to the Detroit water system on October 16th, 2015. And then it signed a 30-year contract with the Great Lakes Water Authority, November 22nd. Isn't that interesting?
Yes. Isn't that wild?
That's JFK's murder date.
Yes, it is.
2017. Now, what I'd like to add to this is that I'm going to mute myself for just a second because I have to cough. Where's the mute? 1 second. Okay, so I want to add another component to tell a little bit about who I am. For people that don't know, I'm the actual real 11 in Stranger Things. I found that out through research. I found out I was involved in MK Ultra projects. It's called Project Genesis Sub-Project Eve, which is a cloning project. So my brother David, I think, became aware. He started researching when he worked for 2 water districts. He worked for the Mammoth Lake Water District because in the Army, he was a water reclamation expert. That was his trade in the Army. When he got out, then he got a job in Mammoth Lakes and he started researching stuff. And the CIA sent somebody, either CIA or NSA sent somebody to step on his face with a steel boot to shut him up. They stomped on his face and he had to have his entire face rebuilt. I think at that point they might have put voice to skull on him. And he never went back to the doctor. They wired his jaw shut. He unwired it himself. Okay. Then later on, he moved to LA and he got a job at Hyperion Water District. Hyperion Water District pretty much funds the entire LA basin. And he became the shop steward. As a shop steward, he was availed boxes of information on not just malfeasance, but plans for privatizing the water, for poisoning the water, for I think maybe when he got down to it, because in my head I was hearing they're going to blow up the bridges and breach the dams in war. I actually talked to a bridge maker and I said, hey, if they blow up the bridges, how does that work? And this guy was a friend of Darrell's. He built bridges in, I think, the war. And he said, well, what happens when they build a bridge, when they blow up the bridge, is then they have an army of engineers there. And then they will build a bridge to get over it. But in the meantime,
they will.
That makes sure that your enemies can't go through that bridge. So you'll build a bridge around it. But that's what they did. They blew up bridges and they breached dams to flood out people, which I think that happened in New Orleans too. And that
I can tell you this, I can't say the year, and everybody knows my background in law enforcement. I retired as a captain detective in a small police department after I left county, and we actually have preppers in Indiana that has doctors, nurses, one person for every profession. They meet once a month. They teach you how to make homemade candles. They teach you how to hoard nickels, dimes, silver.
Is that how you're able to put on a show with no power?
Yes, they actually taught me some things. So yes, I'm actually live with no power, ladies and gentlemen. I'm actually in the dark, running everything off backup little battery booster here.
I want one of those.
So, because my laptop, I just got off another show, but what was I saying? You got me. The preppers. So, and when I was asked to join, because I actually owned a law enforcement supply store, which was a gun store for civilians as well, I was like, hell no, I ain't joining that, man. I'm like, I'm in law enforcement, man. They already got my fingerprints. They got all my information. I mean, what is that going to look like, right? That I'm joining this prepper club, and at the time, prepper clubs were, a bad thing because everybody thought they wanted to overthrow the government and take control. Ladies and gentlemen, that will never happen. Not today. Okay. So don't even think that. So this group, I wish I did join because they actually filled my spot once I learned what they were actually doing, and they still meet once a month. We are talking government officials in this group. We are talking police chiefs, assistant chiefs, captains, sergeants, regular officers. And I don't know if I should announce this or not, but they actually have plans to where if something happens over in Kentucky, where I live and reside, right? There are 1, 2, 3, 4 bridges now that connect Kentucky to Indiana from Louisville, and one from Prospect that goes into Clark County. And they have plans to barricade or to make sure that you are not able to cross that bridge to get into Indiana. And I'm talking full blown out plans. And I'm like, that's what scared me, Penny.
Yes. I encountered that too, Chris, when I was, at one point I was made homeless because CIA was putting me back into play again. They've used me as a covert asset unbeknownst to myself. And so, I'm an entertainer. I was a singer by trade. That's what I did. So I toured across the United States of America many times. So I've had to sleep in my truck, on the way to a gig because I was tired. So it didn't really throw me for that much of a loop when I became homeless. I drove through Fairplay, Colorado. And I said, is there any fair play in Fairplay, Colorado? And the guy said, no, there is not. And this individual told me, he put me up at his house for the evening, hey, BC, and said that they had already planned. There were tunnels there. And I said, you do know that we're headed for, this is in 2017. I said, we're headed for a world war and also possibly a civil war in conjunction with that. And he said, yes, I know that. He said, we're prepared for that. And we have explosives in the tunnels so that if anybody tries to come up here, we'll blow the tunnels. And they have everything that they need. And this guy was making a deal with Coca-Cola the next day. I was like, you're making a deal with Coca-Cola? I'm like, where am I? Right? They have enough money where they can sustain themselves. It was Fairplay, Colorado. It's a very small, little place in the middle of nowhere. You go all the way up in the mountains and you can actually breathe. It's all trees, beautiful, beautiful trees. You walk out and, pine trees and whatever, you walk out and you're just like, you can breathe. But when they start with all this, because I said, are you noticing any of the, the chemtrails here? And he said, no. He said, we don't actually have them up here. So there are some places that are protected. And the civilians, or I don't even know if he was a civilian or if he was a contractor or if he was a CIA spook or what. But at that point, I was dressed all in black. And I just thought I wore black because I was a singer. And that's
right.
something that you do, because I was noticing like almost every picture I had, I was wearing black for the pictures. But that was also a CIA MK Ultra operation in which these people dressed in black would be infiltrating your towns. And he told me about New Orleans when they had that hurricane. Was it a hurricane that flooded out?
Yeah.
Because it was I believe
Katrina.
they assisted in flooding it out even further. And he said that they were there and that there was a militia of individuals, they weren't police officers, that approached them and took their guns.
Yes, that actually did happen. Now, during that time, we had law enforcement from where I was on in the state that was sent down there to help New Orleans with the law, with police and rescue. And I won't comment on some of the things that they said, but a lot of things happened down there that the news did not report. And we're talking not only rape, murder, and everything else, but guns confiscations and stuff like that. And some of the state police and some of the county police and other agencies, some of the officers, when they came back, had PTSD, and a few of them had to resign and go on early retirement because of what they saw traumatized them. So, where I come from, everybody thinks the state is flat. When you go up towards the middle of the state, it is. Up north, it is. But down south, it's not. I'm not in that state anymore. But, personally knowing the officers that went, it was something. It was in shock because you were seeing one thing on TV, but these officers have no reason to make stuff up or to tell stories. Some of them really got emotional over it, that they just couldn't handle it. And a few of them went down there for 30 days, some 60. Some went down there for a week and came back, couldn't handle it. So, yeah. And talking about that, somebody said, I'm going to back up here, back to this comment. So, yeah, so in the Ohio River, they do have mercury that's found in the fish. Allegedly, the government, Metro Louisville at the time now, still says, and Department of Fish and Wildlife still says it's okay to consume fish out of the Ohio River, but it has to be a certain amount.
I wouldn't do it. Would you?
No. When somebody tells me a certain amount, then no, I'm a catch and release person anyways. But
I don't eat fish.
But just think,
I don't eat meat.
That was your source of food. You had no choice because you had no money, and the river there can provide for you. So that's wild.
When was Katrina? Do you know what year that was?
Actually, when my brother got married, it was in 95, 96. All right, or is that too young? No.
I'm looking to see Hurricane Katrina.
I know somebody out there in La La Land is going to correct me.
I'm looking.
I love my fact checkers out here.
Okay, it was August 29th, 2005.
2005. What did I say? 1995. I was off by 10 years. That's right. Because my brother, hello, Sport Cat. Welcome in the house. My brother actually got married down in New Orleans right a month before Hurricane Katrina hit. So it was like
Newton was down there for doing some concerts to help Hurricane Katrina. And I actually met him in Vegas. That's a whole other story. So going back to what my brother did. So my brother was working for the water district, and he saw, this was in the 80s, because I was with my first husband, Steve Zenos, who the name means stranger. So I was literally Mrs. Stranger. Not kidding. So this was in the 80s with Steve, and he was working. My brother was working at Hyperion. He was a shop steward. At one point, all the things that he discovered, he said, Penny, I've uncovered something that is like My Two Jakes, the story of My Two Jakes, which is a movie. He said about the water, though. And he had boxes of stuff. At one point, they fired him, and they sent him to a MK Ultra doctor, essentially, who said he was schizophrenic. My brother was not schizophrenic, but they needed to invalidate him. He also started carrying a gun, and then he moved with his family in the middle of the night because he was getting death threats. And then he started writing an unpublished book, which I had the last copy of. It was taken from me by an agent for Durrell when I was in Illinois. It was called The Whistleblower. And he wrote a book, and then he also wrote a screenplay because he had called me and said, you're the writer in the family. I'd like to know how to write a screenplay. I said, you're going to have to actually research it because I can't teach you that, on the phone. So he did. He wrote the screenplay. I had a copy of the screenplay. It was very thinly veiled. It was about Bush, the Vatican, and my family. And when I read it, it said President Tush, and I was like, you're going to get killed, David, because everybody knows who you're talking about. I don't know what happened to the boxes of the papers that he had, but he saw their present plans to privatize the water, to poison the water. He saw the things that they were already doing to poison the water. Subsequent plans of, if you want to say New World Order, what they were going to do with the water. And then, 40 years later, when I start working with Dave, and then it's my sister, I call her my sister Susie. She's my best friend, and she is my sister. She's my family now. And she told me that I needed to watch Dr. Artis's Watch the Water. And I'm like, I'm busy because we're busy. We're all busy. And so she stood there with the phone and made me watch it. And I cried because Dr. Artis had, he said, it's in the water, right? That was the title of it. It's in the water. And
Right.
my brother was a water reclamation expert that was now a targeted individual, targeted by the government. Black helicopters were following him. He then became homeless. He said that our entire family had been orchestrated and handlers put in place. I didn't understand what he was saying at the time. I didn't negate him, but he was absolutely correct. And that book has since been taken by an agent in Illinois, along with my laptop and my black briefcase. So I'll never recover that ever again. There is a copy on the Copyright Office of this book, but I would have to sue the Copyright Office as his heir because he was murdered April 28th, 2007 in Mission Beach. Apparently his mission was over. He was made homeless after he moved to Oregon and started writing The Whistleblower. And he did drink. He drank a lot, but he wasn't schizophrenic. He wasn't crazy. Everything he said was absolutely true. And he came back to California. He was told if he came back to California, he would be murdered. But he came back to California. He stayed at Mission Beach because Mission Beach was about 20 minutes from my home. And he lived with the homeless people for 2 years. I was unaware of where he was. He'd been arrested over 50 times because he was being gang stalked by the PD there. And my husband, as you know, Chris, was a retired Carlsbad police officer. At one point, he was a sergeant. Then he got demoted. Now I believe the reason why he got demoted was because he was accused of rape. And I believe that he actually committed that rape, but then instead of taking him off the force, they covered for him because he covered for everybody else. Because he said, if you do not do what they tell you to do, they will send you on a call and you will be shot and killed without coverage. And you know what I'm talking about.
Now, I will say this. I'm debating whether to say it or not. I know for a fact that if you do not get along with other officers, I'll probably get crucified for this because I'm a big blue line supporter.
I support the blue line too, but there is corruption within these factions.
Yes, there are. I know for a fact that some officers, if say like I didn't get along with 4 or 5 officers on my shift, or 3 of them, right? My department, on county, when I ran with county, we had probably 3, maybe max on a shift when we divided up into 3 sectors. Sector 1, sector 2, sector 3, like most people do. But in some cases where we had extra people, on the street or on patrol, if you got a hot call, whether it's domestic, a fight, or something like that, they would intentionally make sure and arrive there late and make sure that you arrive there first on scene with no backup.
Yep.
So I hate to say that. Unfortunately, it does happen, ladies and gentlemen. We see it in the movies. So we know for a fact it does. I'm not saying every officer does it.
No.
It
is within the
rank, does happen.
And it is a fraternal order of police, and there are factions within, just like factions within the government that are Freemason, and they have a satanic agenda. And there's also, believe it or not, serial killer cops working with one another, protecting one another across state lines, etc.
Well, look at that one. What was it, the Boston one, or what was that one that went on for years and he turned out to be a police officer? They just caught like 5-6 years ago.
Yeah, there's a bunch of them. There was one, I think it was one of the 405 killers.
Yes, that's one of them, I think.
Right, who turned out to be a police officer. But so I digress. So it's going back to the water. So my brother David knew that they were doing things to the water, and because of his knowledge and of his copious research, he was murdered on a high satanic holiday, April 28th, 2007, on Mission Beach. He was stabbed by an individual who bragged about it. I think that individual was either an MK Ultra or who was a faction of MS-13. So he was dispensed with. I didn't get his body back either.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
and I knew what I got back. My husband, they were drugging me at the time, Chris. My husband told me that David had been liquidated. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I don't understand. He's been liquidated. They tried to tell me that because his body had been kept at the morgue that it deteriorated. And I know that's not true because they put you on ice and until they can find your family, or they'll bury you in a pauper's grave. But he tried to tell me that he couldn't be buried, is what he tried to tell me. So then they cremated him, of course, because that's what they want to do. And I believe that his body or parts of his skin were taken and they were used to make shoes, red shoes.
Actually, I heard that. What was the movie? Hello, Clarice.
It was actually Heather O'Rourke that they said that they made red shoes out of Heather O'Rourke.
Wow.
And
But
it
yeah,
was
I mean
it was
that's
in Home
something.
Alone.
Silence of the Lambs. That's right. Silence of the Lambs.
Yes.
But
The red shoes are real. Okay, the red shoes. There's a red shoe club. The red shoes are, and you'll see like there were a bunch of cops again in Florida, and this is pertaining to the Megan Walsh case. And they have this walk where the men wear women's red high heels. Now these are plastic shoes or whatever. They're not made of human skin, but that it's their Illuminati walk to the Walk of Fame, so that when they get to the top of that walk, that they will have human skin shoes. And there are factions within the PD that are serial killers that are going around murdering people, just like in not the Boston Strangler. It was a very famous case in
Sport Cat, what is it? I know you know what it is,
very
Sport Cat.
famous case in England, which Johnny Depp played one of the individuals. It was called From Hell. And it was about the guy that was going around cutting up prostitutes and eating their hearts.
Like Jack the Ripper, but
Jack
he
the
wasn't eating the
Ripper.
heart, though, but
Yes.
a heart,
He
yeah.
actually was eating the hearts.
Oh,
ate
he
the heart.
was?
Yes, he ate the heart. And it's allegations that because our friend Chet Swift, who was a sniper under Michael Aquino, that came and gave up his life for us. Essentially, he was murdered on the ranch that we were on. He was a mercenary at one point. He was 20 years in U.S. Air Force, I believe, as a recon. Did 8 or 9 tours in Southeast Asia. Was asked to murder Michael Aquino, who was one of his commanding officers. He failed in his mission, and he had just been asking about that in Bastrop at a bar the night before, and then he was murdered the next day. Um, you know, I mean, my life has been. I thought I was just a singer, right? And then my brother David writes this book, and he comes to tell me to save me. He comes, but he never makes it to my house. He could walk to my house, Chris. He was home
Wow.
for 2 years. And so this is what one of the things that they do. They make you homeless. They discredit you by saying that you're crazy, you're schizophrenic, you're a drug addict, you're an alcoholic, whatever that they choose to use to discredit you. They if they make you homeless, then that discredits you even more, right? Because now you're a homeless person that just a shiftless individual. Where right now we have a very high population of homeless individuals who have lost their homes due to COVID. We have PhDs on the street because they've been disavowed, and we have doctors being fired from the profession because they disputed results of the last viral contingency. Let's just put it there. So on our show, we have all of these different people. So let's go back to Dr. Artis. So Susie makes me watch Dr. Artis's thing, Watch the Waters, and I start weeping. He brings out a fortune cookie, and it says the riches of one. It's like either the riches or the secrets of one. The riches will be found in the secrets of one single penny.
Wow.
And now he had his executive assistant contact me and ask me if I wanted to do an interview, and I was freaking out, right? Why does the doctor want to interview me, right? Because I don't like doctors. Why does the doctor want to interview me? And now he's on the show that I'm on, and I really love him dearly.
Wow.
He's a truth teller, and but the secrets. It was something like the riches of something like the secrets of the riches of one single penny. Something about that, and I was like, well, I'm single, and I'm a penny, and I know a lot of secrets, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
And so that was on the front side of this fortune cookie. On the other side was an individual. Dr. Artis had started researching COVID-19. He believes, and I believe too. He's done enough research, which it's I'm convicted that the vaccines are they have snake venom in them, and this isn't a fantasy. This is proven in papers. It's irrefutable.
Somebody else brought that up in casual conversation, and I think there was some literature on Facebook referencing that, but it disappeared. So I don't
So what
know
what
if
Dr.
that's
Artis
true or.
what Dr. Artis's show was with Stu Peters was Watch the Waters. So when I see the fortune cookie and I see it's Watch the Waters, I start weeping because I say this is why David, my brother, was murdered
Yeah.
because he was working for the water district. Now let's go to Ohio River.
Yeah.
Now
Now, the
we know
Ohio River, I'm telling you, is like I said, ladies and gentlemen, it's not far from where I reside now in northern Kentucky. Um, I don't think the water I get is from the Ohio River. It probably is. It has to be.
yeah, I
Um,
think it feeds something like 12 tributaries or 32
oh yeah, I mean
states.
it's major. I mean everything runoffs, the drainage ditches, creeks,
And the people
rivers,
that are living in
streams.
Ohio right now are afraid to shower. So a plea that I put out today and yesterday was when you're taking your shower, I want you to think about the people in East Palestine, Ohio, who are afraid to drink the water, who are afraid to take a shower, whose children are getting sick. And we're talking about long term ramifications, in which even Aaron Brockovich was talking about the groundwater and said they're going to have to test for the next 100 years. So
Well,
now
not
let's
only
go.
that, look at Flint, Michigan that somebody brought up. I mean that back then they didn't know about lead-based paint. Okay, they didn't know about the lead in the pipes. I mean they didn't know about cast iron, all that stuff. And I know in Louisville, they had a major revamp years ago where I think they're still replacing all the old water lines. So, because they're so old, because every winter they break and we have water main breaks
So
and people are without
let's add
water.
another component because there was an aerial view of this town, which looked like a Hiroshima bomb went off. Let's add another component. Do you think that we're on the precipice of World War II? Or you think we're in it?
Well, there's been a lot of controversy on that. I don't know if we're in it or we're on the brink. I think we're going to be sucked into it one way or another because America keeps dabbling.
Yeah, I
Uh,
think we're actually in it. I was saying
so, I
all this
mean,
time,
we actually could be.
we're in
I
it.
mean,
We're in it.
first off, the government's not telling us everything, right?
Right.
Okay, they're not. Ladies and gentlemen, we know that. Okay, I'm not a big conspiracy theorist. Well, sometimes I am, I guess, but
You're
if you go back and look at MK Ultra, you go back and look at the gas they released in the New York subways back in was in the 50s and 60s to test on the human populations, to see the side effects and everything. They gave what was it? Vietnam vets drugs, dope, LSD when they were fighting to keep them awake, and when they got shot, they were invincible. They didn't feel no pain and everything. So, I mean, we don't know. I mean, look at the chemtrails. I mean, that's still a hot topic. When I was growing up, we didn't have them. So,
well from the people that I talk to, from the research that I do. Um, I actually had a vision in 2017 when I was in Branson. I have a friend that's in Branson right now. I saw a civil war. What I thought was a civil war is actually the viral, I would say viral contingency, viral pandemic, which happened. I saw it happening 02/02/2020. That was the first directive of the United States regarding the pandemic. I saw a civil war from 20 2020 to 2024, and World War III from 2024 to 2030. Okay. Uh, Now we have a war in Russia, which started 0224 2022. Now we're in 2023. We just passed February 24th. It's 1 year mark. Alliances are being made. In every world war, you make alliances. The war doesn't just slam on out, it actually takes a little bit of time. So we're making alliances. China aligned with Russia. Germany is, I think Germany is aligned with the United States, but they're probably going to get pissed off too. So
Yeah, everybody's taking sides right now. They're
yes,
taking sides publicly, and they're not, and some of them are not even announcing sides. They're
yes.
staying, hush hush. So
So before the World War, the alliances, but this is, many people didn't even realize that the World War started a lot earlier for other countries than we have in our history books. Okay, what makes the world wars? If everyone's engaged, then it's called a world war, right? Get the United States involved. Well, the United States is involved. The United States is funding billions of dollars to the Ukraine. So I stopped saying we're on the precipice of war. We are in war. Now, if you go on that premise, which I'm not saying anybody should, but I'm saying I do, what happened in this small town of 5,000 people
yeah,
when they're bombing it, literally freaking bombing it with mustard gas? Is this an experiment? Why did no one come down there until, like, I don't know if it was a week or 2 weeks later? The Trump went over there. The Trump train pulled in. But
well, my thing though too is, Patty, is that people do not realize what is transported on our highways and on our railroad systems. They do not know, and a lot of it is government secret, government chemicals,
mhm.
you know, chemical
And
agents.
autopsies.
Um, I know that for a fact because there was an organization years ago. I'm 48, so that would make me 24, 25, was trying to get me to join, which I thought they were nuts. But later on, I found out they were true, that they were petitioning the state because what was being trafficking across state lines that was so hazardous, just like Palestine, right?
Mhm.
They were afraid of the results, and some of it's nuclear waste. And what I said when we were involved with the war with Afghanistan and the Gulf War, I said, and this is my opinion, and okay, if nobody agrees with me, it's fine. But I said, take all of our old ordnance that we've been stockpiling and hiding and locked away. It's supposed to be there for 1,000 years. Let's just take it all and just dump it all over that damn country and be done with it. You know? But
Well, we
no,
also
NATO has
have,
rules. NATO has regulations and
yeah, we
stuff.
have suitcase nukes that
Yeah.
in place somewhere, and they said it was. They tried to say it was like 17 of them. I talked to a scientist friend of mine, and I was like, "Is that accurate?" Because my feeling is that there's like between 100 and 200. He said, "Yes, the 200 is more accurate." And I believe it was June of this last year, so it was June of 2022, in which a Russian spy master killed himself, and he was in charge of the sleeper agents, a sleeper agent program. And I reported on that. And when he killed himself, he didn't, his wife probably went to the store to get some Cheez Its. I don't know. And she came back and he's dead in the bathroom. And he didn't say goodbye, cruel world, or anything like that. He talked about the gun he used, which that's odd, right? You know, he didn't say, well, my health is failing. I love you, honey. Sayonara. He talked about the gun that he used to blow his brains out. Now, then Putin told Xi Jinping about it. And I believe that that was a code for we're going to enact our sleeper agents. Now, there's Russian sleeper agents in America, and there's American sleeper agents in Russia and in China. So we all have our own sleeper agents. And if you could turn a sleeper agent. Here's one thing that I wondered. So when I found out I was MK Ultra, and I more than likely have technology in me, and the X-Files are real. If you don't think they're real, I'm telling your audience, if you don't think they're real, they are. And in the X-Files, in season 11, you find out that the X-Files are the MK Ultra files. And at one point, the X-Files were given by the CIA to the FBI. Then they were given from the FBI to a Blackwater kind of source, outsourced and digitized. At one point, those digital files were breached, and then they returned back to the FBI. So I'm thinking, okay, so if I have technology in my head, which that's what Elon Musk wants to do, if I have technology in my head, can they freaking hijack my brain and get me to do whatever they want me to do? Now, I'm cognizant enough where that's not happening. But if somebody is unaware, which that's my mission, is to bring awareness. And only you can bring your own awareness. Nobody else can make you aware. You have to make a decision that you're going to be aware and that you're going to start researching. Nothing anyone else can do can change you or bring that about. That has to
and don't use Google, use DuckDuckGo. There's a couple other ones out there that are not censorship.
Don't be going, oh, Google, use every single thing.
Yeah.
And I tell people to research their own families. And I say, write a blog if you can, if that's your talent. If your talent is, give $10 to the homeless guy on the street, give the $10 to the homeless guy. Because you don't know who that individual is, why he was made homeless. There are, yes, are there some drug addicted and alcohol addicted people on the streets? Yes. But are there some PhDs that are scientists that were kicked to the curb and left out there to die? Yes, there are. And I know because at one point I was made homeless. I'm not a shiftless individual. I've been hardworking, law-abiding citizen for my entire life. And if it can happen to me, it can happen to anybody.
I mean, you're right. So everybody's screaming, Dogman, Dogman. All right, so we'll switch it up, ladies and gentlemen. Let's talk about Dogman. Who wants to go first? Somebody said a minute ago, let me find it. Let's see, has Dogman populated, expanded tenfold or more in the past 6 years? Well, now, that is not the only time that I actually received a question like that, not only related to Dogman, but also to Sasquatch or Foot, Bigfoot, or however you want to call it. I think it's people being more aware now of their surroundings. I think it's more people that are coming forward and saying, hey, my family owned this land for generations, and my grandparents told me not to go in this part of the woods because of, something lived there, and, we don't bother it. It don't bother us. I actually hear that a lot. I think more people are coming forward with stories and their encounters because I think they feel a little more safer than they did, 5-10 years ago, because back then, man, if you talked about Sasquatch or Dogman, oh hell, you end up in an asylum somewhere. Well, I don't know, but they don't have asylums now. They call them, what do they call them for mental patients?
They call them CIA incarceration units.
Well, they call them that,
basically
mental hospitals.
It could be a mental hospital. It could be a nursing home.
Yeah, there we go. So yeah, because they got rid of the word asylum years and years ago. But no, I think more people are being aware of their surroundings. A lot of people will send me pictures and videos, and I do not critique them. And here's why. I always tell everybody, number one, I wasn't there. Number two, I didn't take the picture or video. And here's why. If you ever taken photographs before with the camera, it doesn't matter what type of camera, we'll say one that you have to focus or automatically focuses. Let's look at a romance scene in a restaurant where a man and woman sitting at the table, and your eyes is focusing on that couple sitting at that table, right? Well, everything around them in the background is blurry, correct? Because your eyes can only focus on one object at a time, and the distance to that other object is not going to be your focal point in focus. So a camera lens and a camera automatically focuses itself, unless you know how to do it manually and do the shutter speed and all that stuff, where I always got confused. But let's say Penny and I are out in the woods, and I say, Penny, look right there, 40 yards to our left, in the center of that bush, there is a creature staring at us, right? So, and she says, yes, I see it. And I pull up my, actually, I got it sitting out here, one of them. I'll get me, well, I'm in the dark, so bear with me here. I probably already hit it somewhere. All right, let me go down low. Let's see here. Yeah, let me turn my light on for a second. Hold on, ladies and gentlemen. See, these preppers taught me a lot.
Yeah, they did. I'm impressed.
So, all right. So I have different types of camera lens for my camera, right? I got smaller ones, bigger ones. I got some that you see it 2 miles away. So,
wow.
Yeah. And I will never tell you why I have those, but I use them for investigations and so forth in cases. But it's very interesting. But let's say I used it and I took that picture, right? Well, Penny and I saw the thing. I'm trying to figure out where to put my light because it's so dark. Penny and I saw the thing, but the camera, when I took the picture, did not, because it picked up a dark void, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, everybody always tells me, oh gosh, here comes another blob squab or a blurry picture of Dogman or a cryptid and whatnot. And that's why I was asking if Sport Cat was still here. We know from experience, and even Ron Moorhead, which everybody knows, and other people like him in the field that has a lot of years experience with these creatures, encounters, we know that they interfere with electronics. Now, why does that happen? I do not know. I do not have an answer. Okay. They drain batteries just like people when they go on ghost hunts. Oh, sorry. You're not supposed to say ghost hunt, ghost investigators, however you want to call it. But it does happen. And somehow they can distort electronic components. So that is why the Patterson and Gimlet film is so great, because it was on an old wind up camera. It was not electronic. So now we know that people are starting to go to we call antique stores and pawn shops and whatnot, Goodwill, and trying to find these older cameras because they don't have the distortion like the electronics does and so forth. And speaking of electronics, I want to flip this off a side switch. I read today that they are going away from silicon microchips processors to actual human brains.
Yeah, that is true.
Did you see that?
It's Neuralink. And
yes,
I also wanted to add in here regarding the Dogman, because we had this conversation, chimera, genetic anomalies, and when you have an event like in Ohio and these chemicals are in the water, the animals are going to adapt. And then we also have animals that are being taken and used for experimentation, and they are implanting them. When I was first starting to do some research, when I was homeless, I found some covert things. One of the things I found was back at this site. I don't even know where I found it. And it looked like it was an alien, and it was a baby, and it was in a room, and it was going, mama, 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 mama. And they brought a dog in the room, and the baby stopped talking because the dog was the baby's mother, because they're mixing dog sperm with human sperm, an alien, and they're creating chimeras. So, we had this conversation regarding, are the dogmen, are they natural? Are they genetically made? Are they from an actual lineage of werewolf? Right? Because we know the werewolves are real.
Now, the Dogman werewolves are separate. They're two different entities. The Dogman's bigger and heavier, and the werewolf is skinnier and lankier.
Do you think that they're related to one another?
That I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of speculation. Now, the theory on the werewolf is that it's a shapeshifter.
Okay.
So that's why it's separate, and that's why you see pictures that are different between werewolves and Dogman.
But
But
it's not
if you
like,
go
well, I
back to
had a
Egyptian
cousin and a
times,
skinny sister.
huh?
It's not like I had a fat and tall cousin and a skinny
No,
sister.
no. Uh, like Rick says, a lichen. That movie Underworld came out for a reason, ladies and gentlemen. And I went off topic on this because he said lichen. If we stop and think about the movies and shows that our parents watched growing up, sci-fi and all that, has it not became a reality
Yes.
and it come to pass?
You're
So,
you're looking at the movie White Noise, and then you
yeah,
actually see the residents that were in that movie have this befall their, and I don't believe it's an accident. I believe it's strategized. I believe it is a war attack because the first thing that you do in war is you sever communications, but then you also sever supply chains and you start killing off everything. And where would be a great place to test in a very small town of 5,000 people to see how are you going to kill off? Is the population going to be killed off by your mustard gas? Is it going to,
they have to test it on something.
yes.
And the government's known to do that before. So
So
Rick says is
let's go back to the Dogman scenario, right?
okay.
Where did the Dogman come from? Does anybody have any conjectures?
Well, Rick says it's not the camera causing the blurring on foot. Same with UFOs. Well, that is debatable, right? Everybody has their own opinion, and we respect that. But a lot of times, like I try to tell people, is that you're walking in the woods, right? And you're a nature photographer. Let's just say that. And you have either a camera like mine or basic camera. I mean, I got many different cameras, camcorders, night visions, whatever. You wouldn't believe the stuff I got, man. It'll probably freak you out. But anyways, whatever you use, you try to see something that that's not supposed to exist in our reality, in our world. We were told that, things that are real and that are not real, and you are trying to wrap your mind around something that you're looking at, and now the picture is the last thing on your mind, okay?
Right.
They always say, I always forgot about my camera. Oh, I didn't think about my phone. I was scared. That happened so fast. But the people that actually try to capture something with a camera or a cell phone, and you can test this theory out. I'm trying to keep up with the comments. Is that when you're nervous, scared, your adrenaline's pumping, and you hit that button to take that snapshot, right? When you hear that click, click, that doesn't mean the picture is taken. That means the picture is in process of being taken. So at that time that you click that button, you are turning around and already moving and running like hell away from that area. And that's why we have a lot of blurs and streaks. And unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, I always say this, that yes, we have little Johnny drunk in the middle of the woods at night in a damn ape suit, causing havoc on people, right? Okay, so we do have the fakes, the people that do go out there and pull pranks on us, but we also have the real sightings and real encounters.
Yes.
Now I've seen pictures that, it's like, oh my God, will this guy quit, stop? Will you just stop posting these pictures and saying, oh, in the shadow, it's this, it's that, and they're drawing circles.
Can one of these canines be descendants from creatures once roaming during the Ice Age?
Well, Sasquatch and Dogman goes back way, way more than we can even think about. I mean, we're talking when we were hominoids and Neanderthals. I can't even say it right. Yeah.
What is
Miniatures.
a hominoid?
Yeah, miniature thing, miniature person, mixed.
That's what a hominoid is?
Yeah, Google it. See what the actual definition is since we're on the topic. I always like to be right and be a fact checker. Somebody always likes to fact check. So,
hominoid of or belonging to the superfamily Hominoidea, which consists of lesser apes and the great apes, including humans,
Yes.
resembling a human.
Right. So that's where the evolution taking place. So 35 million years afoot, Rick says, and you're probably right. Arctic wolves have been roaming and surviving the high Arctic. Yes. What's that nuclear plant over in Russia? Chernobyl. Yes. They are animals and creatures that are living there and thriving in that radioactive environment, that are reproducing, and they are augmenting, and or what do we call it? Adapting to their environment, evolution. They're going through the evolution process to survive. And the strong will always will survive. The theory is, the weak, we're not going to get in that realm, but you know what I'm talking about, right? So, yeah, absolutely. So, it really depends on where you stand. A lot of people think Dogman is evil. I think, my personal opinion, it is evil. I don't think that you want to go up and hug it or kiss it and feed it or pet it. I've never seen or heard a good encounter with a Dogman. There are a lot of things happening in the media that relates to a Dogman incident, but they say it's a pack of dogs. Darwin theory. Thank you. Yes. Pack of dogs that caused the death of this human being. But when you look at the autopsy report.
Are you talking about the Amazon guy?
That's one of them.
I hate it when they eat the Amazon guy. I need my stuff.
Right. So, we have been told, allegedly, and I cannot prove this because I'm no longer active in law enforcement, but a lot of law enforcement agencies, no matter what agency it is, they have actually code words for Dogman and Bigfoot when they broadcast on the radio. So, yeah, hug a Dogman. Yeah, Scarborough got real close to Dogman once. That was freaky. So, yeah,
did you have code words?
Huh?
Did you have code words?
No, I'll be honest with you. I'm a no-kill person, right? A lot of people are, but I always told my officers that if I saw Bigfoot or Dogman, I was going to run my car over it to prove that it existed. I retract that today. I would never do that. So. Yeah, I mean, especially when we went out in the woods to hunt people that were with warrants, and I always told my officers, "Hey, look, man, if we come across a Bigfoot, I'm dropping it." And they'd be like, "Are you serious?" I'm like, "What are we gonna do if you do?" I'm like, "Hell, if I know, I guess we'll make national news." But like I said, I've actually retracted that statement, and I'm a no-kill person like everybody else. But Dogman, goes back to the Egyptian days. I mean, look at the hieroglyphs, the picture glyphs, the cave drawings, and so forth. I mean, they had dog heads with human bodies.
Yes.
So explain that.
That means that they were, they existed back then because they were doing depictions of them. They also, on the Notre Dame, they have reptilian men eating babies that's what the gargoyles are on the Notre Dame.
Somebody else told me that a while back ago. That was very interesting, because if you look at the architecture, I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, I'm fumbling around in the dark here. Only thing I'm using light is off my computer and my little bitty camera light. I actually had my lantern going earlier, didn't I? But I turned it off. So good for you, Grizz. No kill Bigfoot Dogman. Yeah, I do. So on that topic of Bigfoot and Dogman, so now we're mixing them, which is fine. Everybody has their own theory. Nobody knows for a fact what they are. Okay. Some people say that it was man-made. Some people say that the aliens brought them because they see Bigfoot or Sasquatch with or after a UFO sighting. Some reports, eyewitnesses encounter a UFO with Sasquatch at the same time. So, but the thing is everybody's having all these different encounters and experiences, but they're all the same across the world, right?
Yes.
So it's not like Penny, you're saying, oh, the other night I was out back and I had some wine, I'm drinking, and I own like 200 acres, and I saw an alien aircraft land in the middle of my field. And believe it or not, Bigfoot came out of it. So, I mean, what are you supposed to do? Call them a liar? No, you can't do that, right?
No,
because if you sit there and downgrade them, make fun of their stories or anything, they are not going to come forward and say, hey, look, I had an encounter, I want to tell my story. But if Penny told her story and they made fun of her, mock her, smeared her name, talked bad about her, how crazy she is, and Looney Toony and all that other stuff, that shows other people, then why in the hell am I going to come forward and say, hey, I saw something too, years ago, or something like this happened. So gargoyles may be protectors for humans. Possibly stories have been twisted over the hundreds of years. So right there, I'm going to make a valid point. So folklore and legends. Okay, brief touch on that. I'm glad Scarborough brought that up. People don't understand that folklore and legends actually come from some part of the truth.
Yes.
That actually is true. That has been proven fact, right?
Yes.
But over the generations, it has been actually added to it, to the story, and that's where you get the noise and the pollution in the story, or the gargled whatever. So, and that's why we have to be careful, because the United States of America, I mean, we didn't come here. I mean, we weren't. We came from other countries to build America.
Right.
I mean, the indigenous people lived here. They knew about Sasquatch for millennia or thousands of years, for whatever. And they knew about Dogman because, they talked about it. They saw it. There's actually a report that has been documented, and I bring this up to Penny all the time, where Sasquatch, or hairy man, however you want to call it, foot, was taking women and children from this local tribe, and they called them giants because they didn't know what they were. They didn't know what to name them, right? Mm-hmm. So, yes, there he is, disembodied. That's exactly what I was going to mention. So, I forgot what I was saying. I saw him and got real excited.
Disembodied demonic Nephilim have been here since the beginning. I believe people are mistaken the distant demonic Nephilim for Bigfoot and other cryptids.
Now, with that statement right there, ladies and gentlemen, okay. Now, I did a lecture for ghost hunters, and make sure and please like and subscribe to the channel. We're going to have more open mic nights. Actually, I want people to come on live and talk too. Yeah. So, Abe, if you want to come on live, let me know. I will send you a link, and you can come on and talk. You've been on TV before. You have a lot of encounters with Dogman, so it'll be good to have some testimony for you. So if you want to come on live, Grizzly Chris is my Facebook. Here, I'll put it down here in the comments. Grizzly Chris. I tried to friend you like a year ago, but send me an instant message and I'll send you a link to the show and I'll bring you on. But people get confused about Nephilim, right? So Nephilim was something that was created that God got really mad and upset because of his angels, what they have done. I'm not going to go into it. The lecture's out there. It's kind of long, but break it up in segments and watch it.
We need to play that on our show.
Yes. And we all know where you live, Chris. Yeah, you just trace my IP address, and it'll probably come back in China.
I like that.
Yeah, right. So I did a lecture on it because too many ghost hunters were actually going out there and meddling and investigating, and they're like, oh my God, oh, he said, sure, he's going to come on. So let me grab one of my cell phones here somewhere and make sure. I'm waiting for you to send me an instant message. If I have to friend request you, let me know. No problem, because I got my security kind of tight. But Beard Man, thank you for subscribing to our channel. I greatly appreciate that. I just got that notification. But Nephilim's God, actually, people don't realize God got mad and upset that he actually made man. And he wanted them to be wiped off the face of the earth. And that's what happens with the flood. And that's another story. But you need to go out and watch the lecture. It's called Fallen Angels and Satan or something for ghost hunters. Because people were calling me, telling me that, hey, I'm coming home with attached spirits. I don't know what to do. Now, I am a reverend, so the people that don't know, let me see here in the dark if I can reach it without knocking crap over. I've got tons. Oh, you can't see it. Here, let me turn my light on. Where's my little lamp? My little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine. This little light of mine. There we go, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, I made it worse, didn't it? It sucks being in the dark. Oh, there we go. I got tons of this. Now, this you cannot drink because it's got bleach in it. That way it kills the bacteria when people come in and out of the sanctuary and they want to bless themselves and whatever Catholics do. I've got bottles and bottles and champagne bottles full of it. I know how to bless water. I can bless water. But the problem is that, oh, sorry, Abe, I'm sending you the link. The problem is that I could send you the prayers for you to perform to cleanse your house. But the problem is that you actually have to be two things. You actually have to be pure at heart, and you actually have to, Abe had sent. You actually have to believe and have faith. If you do not have those two characters within your body, then yes, the prayers that I send you will not work. That's why I usually tell you the Watchers, yes, they are called the Watchers as well. Actually, the fallen angels were thousands upon tens of thousands of angels. Is yes, Legion. And I actually cover that very well, Rick, in my lecture. So look, I'm being called Father, not Lord. So, but and I'll tell you, I never told anybody I did that because the test and stuff was so hard. I didn't think I was going to pass it right. I learned a lot, but it's another show too. So I'm waiting for Abe to come on. I sent Abe the link. So let's see if he pops up. He's got a lot of experience, ladies and gentlemen, with Dogman. I mean, he's been on TV. He's an experiencer? Yeah, he's got the link. He has been on TV shows, series, all that stuff, talking about his encounters. He's got a lot of pictures. For some reason, Abe is the Dogman are attracted to him. I have no idea. Again, I'm glad it's him and not me.
Possibly frequency, Chris.
Well, you make a good point. I'm trying to find my drink, ladies and gentlemen. You make a good point because even hairy man, Bigfoot, whatever you want to call it, giants, right? People say that they can sense your intentions when you enter into the woods.
Right.
So if you are open-minded and you don't mean any harm, then they usually are just interested in what you're doing, and they just pretty much mess with you by throwing rocks, following you. And we're talking about Sasquatch, okay? We're not talking about Dogman. We're talking about Sasquatch. So use the name of Jesus to rebuke the dark ones. It's the dark entity that scares my people. Shadows. Yes, that is correct. That is correct, Rick. So what was I saying? Rick got me on another tangent. I hate when I do that. I'm getting old. I'm 48.
Yeah, I'm 60. I'm going to be 65 this year.
Oh, whatever. Shut the door.
Continuity of
Shut the door.
research, But I'm just doing I'm just doing one show that's 5 hours and then booking 130 people a month.
That's
But
crazy. I don't know how many shows I've been doing. I lost track.
Right?
So
I don't know how you do what you do with
well,
all the different shows that you have.
and that's a different show to talk about. I asked Abe if he's coming. Maybe he's getting makeup on and freshening up. I don't know. That was kind of out of nowhere to have him on. But yes, come on, Abe. Oh, here he is, ladies and gentlemen. Abe, well known for his encounter with Dogman Penny. Welcome, Abe. Welcome to the show, sir. How you doing?
There he is.
I'm doing well.
Hey, introduce yourself. I've been trying to friend you for like a year now, and I never did it, right?
I sent you a friend request about a year ago. My Facebook account had gotten permanently deleted. So if you sent me a friend request, I might have never received it.
Oh,
but
yeah,
I had to redo an account. yeah, that's what happened. You know, when you're trying to bring the spiritual aspect out of it, you know, we're talking about the DDN. But my name's Abe Cias. You know, a lot of people might know me from the Terror in the Woods, season 3, episode 2, because I share my story of what happened to me in Elms Grove Estates. But I was in the military from 89 to 99. I was a tanker. So I served 10 years in the military, and I lived in Temple, Texas.
Really? Interesting. I'm in Texas.
Yes, I've been in Central Texas from when my first destination was in Germany. So I got stationed in Fort Hood. So I stayed here in Central Texas. I'm originally from South Texas. That's where I was raised and born, in South Texas. But I stayed in Central Texas. I've been living here for about, 22 years now.
Wow.
Yeah. So you're aware of Fort Hood and Galeen, correct?
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
There
ma'am.
we go. Now he's
We
big
lived
and
in
bright.
Bastrop for a while. Our friend Chet Swift was a U.S. sniper for 20
Yes.
years career, and he was murdered on our ranch, which was Camp Swift.
Oh, wow.
Former German POW camp, internment camp.
Mm-hmm.
And that land was given to my sister Susie by her boss, who was Buck Steiner, who owned about 10,000 acres of land. And so he gave her Camp Swift, and our friend Chet was murdered by the cartel.
Cartel.
Mexican mafia is what we found out when we had to testify. When my sister had to testify at the trial, they subpoenaed me, but
This happened on Fort Hood area, Killeen?
No, it happened in. Right now we're in East Texas, but at the time we lived in Bastrop, which
Bastrop, Texas.
From Austin, and Susie's neighbor Nixon, his wife, whom he's now divorcing, it's his ex-wife, is a attorney, and she was talking about representing Galeen, in which the MO of her murder most resembled an MO of MS-13 or Gangland, because they cut her up in little pieces.
Yes, you're talking about the soldier Galeen. I had a cousin that had gotten murdered in Killeen also, and he was just thrown out there in one of the back roads called Jack Mountain, but back in 2002. So I know how bad that is, but I believe that the girl might have been affiliated with that, the female that handled the body that was with that guy, because she was Hispanic, I believe, and she might have been affiliated with that.
A lot of murders at Fort Hood.
Oh yes, there's a lot of that happening there. You see, what people don't understand is, I've been telling this to a lot of people. This when we talk about disembodied demonic Nephilim, not to take anything away from Bigfoot, but a lot of the soldiers, they're coming from areas where there's violence and there's been murder, like for example, Iraq, Bosnia. They're coming from those areas where they might come back to Fort Hood, or which we should say is Killeen area, with a negative attachment. So a lot of the things that are happening, I believe, has to do with that. A lot of soldiers are coming back with negative attachments. In the Muslim world, the disembodied demonic Nephilim, they're known as the Djinn. And most likely, what I've noticed since I've been in the area where a lot of the soldiers are coming back with these negative attachments. I witnessed this when I was out there myself in Operation Desert Storm. I was in the Battle of Medina Ridge, and I could see this disembodied forms, like in shadow form, but they were flying in the air. After we fought the Battle of Medina Ridge, we were moving forward, and there was people giving up. They had white flags. They were coming out of underground bunkers that had white flags, and I would see this disembodied demonic Nephilim, what I call them, gliding in the air, and they would jump into the person with a white flag, and next thing you know, you could see like their eyes change color, like color yellowish, and they drop the flag and they pick up, and it's the white flag for surrender. They pick up a weapon and aim. So next thing you know, somebody from our side takes that life, and then they would jump from that person to another person, and the same thing would happen. Ma'am?
Kind of like a Zazel.
Yeah, it's jumping from person to person.
Yes.
But they're really out there to collect the soul. It's about the belief factor. There's a lot of people. Look, this somebody demonic Nephilim, you want to call them the jinn, whatever you want to. They said they call them many names. They call themselves even the tormentors at one point in time.
Yes.
To me, their main goal, their main mission is they want you to believe in them. So they don't care if they're manifesting into a Bigfoot, a Dogman, a Mothman, a hellhound, or any kind of thing in that nature. If you start believing in them, that's the opening they use to come up against you spiritually, in which they can manifest to look very real, like flesh-like. When you the way you put that to the test, I know is what I do is I say I tie, bind, and rebuke in the name of Jesus Christ, and if it disappears in thin air and you rebuke it in the name of Jesus Christ, then you know you're dealing with something that's the DDN, demonic. And I've tested that numerous times. What got me is out of my experience, is when I started believing that the werewolf at that time, I didn't know the term Dogman, or I knew about Bigfoot and squashes, but it took to look like a werewolf of some sort, right? So I started believing that what I was seeing was real. I mean, it was literally, it could manifest for about 2-3 minutes and then, go into the creek, or it could break a oak tree branch and fall on the ground, and you could see it standing there. Once I started believing it was real, then that's when it started attacking me, unseen as in invisible. It's like I could hear footsteps and I get hit and I fly 4 or 5 feet, but by the time I stand up, there's nobody there. I got shoved up 2 cliffs by an unseen force, which it becomes more of you're fighting for your soul, because then they're trying to not just destroy you spiritually, physically, but in the form of possession. They want to collect your soul, so they're going to come at you. And the opening I left was that, and I had another opening. The other opening I had is that I had unforgiveness in my heart, but it had to take almost 15 years of fighting them spiritually to realize that I had to forgive. Once I forgave people that I had something against, and I forgave them truthfully from the heart, it's like everything changed for me, in which I was able to fight them spiritually with a love foundation. Because when you forgive, there's nothing negative that he can use to come up against you anymore.
Right.
And that's what I'm saying, ladies and gentlemen. What he's saying is you got to be pure at heart, and you got to have your faith. Without that, no matter what you say, will not work.
Yes, and I've heard it from numerous sites. I know that I bring a different aspect out of it, but some people might like it, some people might not. But I'm talking just because I care about what happened, just like I care about the soldiers that come from overseas, from the Muslim world, with this DDN. From their country, they call it the Djinn, and they come. I've helped up a couple of soldiers that had the Djinn. As a matter of fact, I lost a brother-in-law not too long ago through the form of suicide. He took his life because he had a Djinn within him. I would try to help him, but he would always say he was busy. He was busy. Next thing you know, he took his life. And that's what they do. They can attach somebody you love, and next thing you know, they take their life and they're gone. And you're like, what happened? You don't know was going on. They were living a good life. They were being good, and it just happens just like that. Kind of like what happened to me when they finally surfaced up after I forgave. They took me somewhere telepathically. For those that that say that Bigfoots are telepathically, well, the DDN, they're telepathically. They can get into your mind. I don't know if this happens to anybody, but sometimes you have a bad image that comes to your mind, or sometimes that a bad thought comes to your mind that you're seeing something. Well, what I do, I just rebuke it right there and then, because I don't want that image in my mind. But that's what they do. They came to me after I had forgiven that evening. It was three of them. They came through the wall. They were standing in my bedroom, and they wanted to show me something, but they just spoke telepathically. So they showed me what people know as Sinai, and they show me all the people that were being tortured in Sinai, where their flesh was coming off and coming on, and they were telling me that was going to be my fate. That if I had to do something for them, or that was going to be my fate, right?
Mhm.
So I know God is a forgiving God. So I didn't ask them what they wanted me to do, but they told me, this is what we want you to do. We want you to take your life. If you take your life,
Wow.
well, if you take your life, that's where the suicide comes, right? Uh, they said, if you take your life, we're not going to mess with your son or anybody in your family.
Wow.
That's what they told me, right? But you see, I know God is a forgiving God, and I know I was already feeling the spiritual blessings by forgiving, because forgiving is part of love. And I said, at this time, first of all, my son is protected by the Heavenly Father,
Yeah.
and I take authority over you. I tie, bind, and rebuke in Jesus' name. And when I said that, they left. And when they left, all the things that were happening to me there in Elms Grove ceased. No more manifestations of them trying to come at me,
Mhm.
or no more spiritual attacks where I was getting hit. I had bruises, scratches. I mean, I was fighting for my life there. But God never left my side. It was just something, the opening that I had. I just had to figure it out, and I figured it out. It was so heavy, where it feels like you're in drowning or in quicksand, and I would say to myself, just to keep myself sanity, because you don't want to tell nobody what you're going through, because they're going to think you're crazy, when you're getting spiritually attacked in that nature. So I kept it to myself, and I said, God, if you give me one little space to be able to fight them, a little opening of what to do, I'm going to use that opening. I'm going to overcome them. And the opening was that I had to forgive. And I'll tell you what, when that happened, and the way they fled when I said a tie binder in Jesus' name, that's telling me they're, no matter what beastly form they take, whether they manifest into a Bigfoot, a Dogman, a Mothman, they know the name of Jesus Christ. They know what
Yes, they do.
what the Heavenly Father can do. The only thing what I said on this mission is, after that, is like, I don't want nobody to go through what I went through. That's why I put myself out there on a limb and talk spiritually in this nature, because I've been there. I've been shoved off 2 cliffs by the people want to call them Bigfoots, Dogman, DDN, whatever they want to call them. I've been shoved off 2 cliffs. After that, I started collecting minerals. I mean, I tumbled. I don't know. I was at 50. I don't know. My wife was way down, and I tumbled all the way down. There was this big boulder that broke my fall. I mean, I was tumbling, and I was on crutches for about 2-3 months after getting shoved from the back from up there. After that, it's like I started collecting minerals, and I started knowing about minerals. Like right now, I have some on my wrist. There's minerals that can protect you also, but the number one protector is Jesus Christ. But like black tourmaline wards off negative energies, selenite wards off negative energies, alpha calcite multiplies. You have those 3 minerals, makes it that stronger to keep any negative attachments, because that's what they are, like negative attachments. I tell you, when they manifest and you're seeing them, you're like, for sure they're real. When they have the ability to break a branch or break a big old oak tree limb and land on the ground, and you see them running, you start seeing, well, it's something real. But once you believe it's real, then you see them no more. Then they come and attack you spiritually. I went through that experience. Not, I hear it through the Bigfoot community, where there's some people that said, I was seeing the Bigfoot out there. Now the Bigfoot is living inside my house. How can that be? Right? The only way that can be if it's the negative attachment that jumped on them and now it's within their household. So what they have to do is cleanse their home and cleanse themselves. And they need to close that the belief factor that they believe it to be real in order to get rid of that negative attachment within their household. That's what they have to do. I have a lot of people that always contact me at what they're going through, and I give them a spiritual advice. And hunters, matter of fact, have contacted me because of things that they've experienced out there, and I tell them, to carry the minerals, and they run into something that they see something that's not of what they hunt that looks like a Dogman or a Bigfoot, to put it to the test, rebuke in the name of Jesus Christ truthfully and, through faith, and see what happens, and I tell them about carrying minerals with them for protection. But like, this, I know it's a little bit a lot that I'm telling you all about it, but the DDN, I think he was explaining it good, where he was dealing with the Watchers, how they got created, that they were jealous of mankind, and they was already in cahoots with Lucifer, so they slept with the women and created the Nephilim. So the Nephilim, some people till this day say that they just didn't sleep with women; they slept with even animals.
That's correct.
So that's how they got created. So they started eating everything off Earth, and they started cannibalizing. Everybody's, like because they were when they got casted, they became like demons. So there were, people were getting possessed and all kinds of things. Crazy things were happening, rapes, murders. So the flood came, right? Dealing with a guy called upon the flood to destroy the Nephilim. So when we call about the flood, 40 days, 40 nights, right? They destroyed the Nephilim, but they became disembodied Nephilim because they were still demonic. They were created by the Watchers. That wasn't God's creation. So after that, they were here on Earth roaming, and we know them as demons. That's what they are, because they're part demonic because of the Watchers. They were part of the 1/3 that was in cahoots with Lucifer, and they roam the Earth just to find a host. What does that mean? To possess somebody, and not just to possess somebody, but to destroy the host. To destroy the host for their soul. To collect a soul. So that's what they do. We hear it happen a lot within the Bigfoot community, where there's a lot of people wind up missing. The 401 cases of children missing and people missing in the woods. I believe that, and there's no bodies that are found. So I believe that they're taken because they're deceived by them, and they're taken into their realm. You want to call it the hell realm or cyanide? They're taken. Taken just like the way they are. They took it because they're believing it's whatever form they took, right? Whether it takes the form of a woman to yelling for help, or of a child who kind of help take them deeper into the woods, whatever form it took, and they believe it's a woman and child, will believe is belief, right? So it's using the belief factor to deceive them. I try to my best to try to awaken, that's what I'm trying to awaken a lot of people not to believe in everything that they see, and put it to the test spiritually. Tie, bind, and rebuke it in Jesus' name. And if it disappears right there in front of you and just boom, then you know that it's not from here, from this plane, it's from another realm, most likely demonic. I'm just sharing talk to you about my experience. I know this, when I was in the military up on Fort Hood, we was at a range called Glabber Creek, and I used to work for S3. I was in the center of operations for 212 Cav. Well, at that time, it was 132 Armor. And I was working for the TOC, which is a center of operations, and we set up tents up there for the higher ranked people, the generals and stuff like that. And I was always feeling up the generator. I had the night shift, so it was raining one day. As it was raining, I went to the generator to fuel it up with some old gas. And as I'm fueling it up, rocks are being thrown at me from behind some trees. A lot of rocks are being landing right right beside me, like there's somebody's trying to hit me with some rocks. And it was only me and my chain of command, which was his name was Sergeant First Class Bowser. We were the only ones there in the talk, and there was rocks flying everywhere, and I'm looking, and it was landing in the mud. So I finally filled it up and went inside because I thought it was my sergeant. He was an E7 that he was throwing those rocks at me. But when I went in there, he was drinking a cup of coffee, and he wasn't wet or nothing. And I was like, I asked him, hey, why are you throwing rocks at me? And they said, what are you talking about? I've been here all this time. I was just waiting for you to turn on the generators so we can get lights and power in here, So the following day, I heard the sergeant major screaming. He's screaming. And I go to find out what was going on because he was asleep. He was sleeping in a tent, right? And the tents have the camouflage netting over it. Well, in between the tent and the camouflage net, there was a big pile of crap, huge. I've seen cow poop, horse poop, but it was humongous, And I'm looking at this, and the sergeant major thought it was one of the people inside the tent that did that. I was like, "There's no way a person could do this." It was massive. So since I was lower rank, I got the detail to clean that up. I had to shovel it up and go bury it somewhere, But there was soldiers working in one of the towers because we had we had a duty where we had to run the towers through all 4 hoods. So we're in charge of all the towers. I was in Clabber Creek, and the other person was in Pilot Knob. So we had a radio call over the radio wave saying that something was attacking his tower. So we all got up in the Humvees. We're not supposed to carry live ammunition with us on 4 hood. So I just grabbed a pick handle, and some other guys grabbed some pipes and stuff like that. So we got in the Humvee and went to that range, and we got to the tower. And when we got off the Humvee, you could smell like a beastly smell of sort. But there was an outdoor latrine out there, so I figured it was coming from the outdoor latrine. So we went up there, all the way to the top, and he had the door barricaded, and he didn't want to open it. So he finally took everything off. There was a higher rank person that told him to order him to take everything off. So he finally opened the door, and you could tell he was scared. I don't want to say too many bad words, but he was scared up. He was just scared, and he was pale from the face, and he was just smoking cigarettes after cigarette. Like, I've never seen a person smoke a cigarette that fast. He was just nervous, scared. We told him what happened. He said, I seen him. I said, what did you see? He said he was down in the bottom of the tower, going to the restroom to use it, that he said the name Sasquatch. He said he was looking at him, and he was looking at him, and he started coming at him, so he ran up back to the tower. We never found no footprints, but there was a stench in the air. At that time I was only like 21, 22. I didn't know as much things that I know now, but there was sightings of not just dogmen. We've seen in the military unidentified flying objects. I've seen them in combat. I've seen them in California on 4 hood. I've seen what seemed to be a werewolf, or what people call dogmen, on one of the ranges through our thermals. We were able to see something downrange, so we had a call. We're doing a night fire. We're trying to qualify our tank. So to qualify a tank, you got to shoot daytime and nighttime. And we just something running through in our thermals, running on 2s downrange on a live fire. So we had to call a ceasefire to get range control to go check it out. But you would see there was a lot of ceasefires due to that there was somebody downrange. People would say there was the gang from Gatesville, but I mean, there ain't no gang that's going to be out there when there's live rounds going downrange,
No.
No. They said, they're going to steal the generators. There was never a generator stolen from all the time that I was there. But you will see this kind of activity there on the ranges and, out there in the field. Then when I started experiencing all these other things, what I experienced after I got out of the military started making sense to me. but I have people that witnessed them that were in the serve with the military with me, and I was trying to get them. One of them was my TC, and one was my driver, and they're on my friends list to share what we witnessed, But whatever it was there was one that got right in front of our tank. We were coming from Clabber Creek down the tank trail. He jumped right in front of our tank, and we had the night vision. And through the night vision, the thermal, we could see it different pixelations, like it's changing, trying to change different pixelation to hide its cover. But he passed right in front of our tank. The driver hit the brakes. I hit the sights, and it was huge. We just couldn't get a good look at it because he had like some kind of cloak and different pixels. I got off the tank with the pick handle of the axe, but there was no footprint. The reason there was no footprint because the dirt is so thick from all the tanks to drive on it that it just like falls in place. So I couldn't see no footprint of nothing there. The only thing I told them is, hey, let's get out of here, turn on your high beams, and we'll go into the mortar pool and park it. This stays between me and you. I heard them saying about that people don't want to share the stories because they're going to think they're crazy. Well, if we would have shared their story with the first sergeant or the higher rank, they probably thought we would have been crazy, or maybe we were on some kind of drugs, or maybe they would have said, you know what, he's not fit to be a sergeant, So we just kept it to ourselves. But through the experiences that I experienced and what I've seen, of lately, it's something. People have it. People are on the right track, but it's not a flesh creature that has those capabilities to disappear like that. It's got to be something that is in spirit, disembodied, demonic, that has those capabilities. They can cause all kinds of. You got to remember that the angel of light, that was Lucifer, right? That he was like a trickster, right?
Yes.
That he could manifest it to anything to deceive somebody. He can't even manifest himself into an angel to deceive somebody. So, but if I believe for those who maintain a love foundation, and you're blessed with the spiritual gift of discernment, by doing that through those gifts, you're able to see right through the shenanigans, or
right.
You're able to sense spiritually what you're really dealing with, because love is going to see right through it, and just like what I experienced, and I seen right through it, what I was dealing with. I believe I came out on a Big Condoms show, Dogman and Condoms, episode 53. On that episode, I said that I believe it was something demonic that lured me into the woods. At nighttime, my sister heard a woman yelling for help, came to the room, woke me up. I went out there, and I could hear her yelling. It was cold, so I went inside, put some clothes on, grabbed the bat. I don't have no weapon in my house or nothing like that. So I grabbed the bat, and I told her I'll be right back. It was already like 3. So I followed the noise, or should I get a cry for help? But when I stopped at the park, it was coming from the woods. Something told me to go in there, but being prior military, I said, well, if it's somebody in the need of help, I need help. So I went in there with no flashlight, walked down the path. As I walked down the path, hearing the voice get louder, that she's yelling for help, and I got the bat ready to swing. So as I get to where I hear the noise very loud and I'm fixing to swing, there's nobody there.
Wow.
So I'm there in the woods at 3-something in the morning, and I'm looking for movement, and I said, is anybody here? Does anybody need help? And nobody's saying nothing at all. So I'm looking, and the leaves are already falling from the trees around that time frame. I think it was like winter time. And I could see there was a club, and the club was closed. There was no cars in the parking lot. It was empty. That's right across the creek. So as I'm there and I'm looking and nobody's saying nothing, I get this weird spiritual feeling over me where all my hairs just stand up, and something's telling me spiritually that I'm in danger. My spiritual instincts are telling me you're in danger. Mm-hmm. So when I turn around slowly, that's when I seen them. I seen the one that was closest to me was probably like 6-7 foot away from me. And there were like in 10-meter intervals. There was 3 on one side of the path, and there was 3 on the other side of the path that were further away from me, but they were angled a certain way. At that time, I had two options: is go 15 feet behind me into the creek, and then I said to myself, but this one that's closest is going to chase me down through the creek, probably get me. And I said, or go to the left, or like 30, 40 yards, go to the highway. But the ones that were angled that way, they're going to chase me down that ways. So what I had to do is, I said, well, there's only other one solution is go back the same way you came in. So what I had to do, I had to take myself to a different place. So I started praying the Our Father, and I started zoning out everything. I try to get fear out of my system, and I was just, and prayer is my safe zone. So I start going into prayer, and I'm not moving till I feel the presence of the Heavenly Father there. So I'm there witnessing that they're there. They're seeing me. I can see like white eyes looking at me. So, and they were pretty tall, say like over 7 foot. So they're looking down at me, and I start walking, and I'm still saying the Our Father, and I see them turning their heads. Turn the one here close, looking down at me, turning its head. So I'm not trying to give up any kind of power. So I'm just like block them out, and just focus on the path that I got to walk. So I kept on praying and praying, and while I was praying the Our Father, telepathically, because I'm praying it within myself. I'm not saying it out loud. I'm praying the Our Father within myself.
Right.
Within myself, telepathically, this is what they say. They say, the Holy One, the Holy One. They acknowledge the deliverance prayer, the Our Father, who art in heaven. They kept on repeating themselves, saying, the Holy One, the Holy One. So I could feel something behind me. I never turned back, and I walked all the way home. The only thing I know, they acknowledged the Our Father. They know who that was by saying the Holy One. So the only thing I could think of what I witnessed there that night was something demonic, that lured me into the woods. But
that's crazy.
Then after that, everything else started happening. When they started taking the manifestation of this werewolf-like creature. There was one that was all black, and there was one that was brownish. Whether they were werewolf or Bigfoot, whatever. There was one my son had gotten lured into the woods. My son and we all watched the show. My son and my friend's daughter had gotten lured into the woods. They said after it looked like they were hypnotized by it, and they were standing right in front of a tree. That was weird about it. We looked for them for about 45 minutes, and we couldn't find them in the park. We called the cops, and then I seen something over a bush, and I seen like the top of somebody's hair. Because my son was 5 years old, but he was pretty tall. So I ran, and they were standing right in front of a tree. And I was like trying to get their attention, but they wouldn't respond to me. They were like hypnotized. And after a while, they both said the man in black called us. That's what they said. So they were still in a like hypnotized sense of a way, and I yelled for my sister and my friend. They came and took them. I had searched the woods that day. I couldn't find nobody either dressed in black or anything. Nobody in black. I went all over those woods, but I experienced a lot of things. When something tries to take your loved one, and, my son, that was my only son. It becomes something personal. So, since I'm prior military, of course, I've got gear where I can camouflage myself. And I was going out there into the woods, camouflaging myself, because if something was trying to take, or someone was trying to take my son, then they're capable of taking anybody out of the park. So I was going out there in the woods at nighttime just to see if I could see some kind of movement of some kind of sort. I would blend in with the Mother Nature itself. There was one day that I did witness something. As I went by a tree, there was some brush, and I heard something growling at me. So I'm looking down and I see something small, and I could see like a face, and he had a lot of teeth. And he's standing on twos. It looked like a little boy of some sort, but it was like all furry, and he had a lot of teeth. And he's looking at me, and is growling at me. And what I have in my hand, like I said, I have a lot of gear. One of the things I had in my hands was a machete. So I had the opportunity right there and then to hit it right on top of the head, if to take it out. But spiritually, something said, "Don't do it." Within myself spiritually. So I just left it alone, walked away from it slowly. But I was keeping an eye, make sure he didn't try to come and try to attack me. So when I walked out, in the distance, I heard like a car crash. Right. So I went to go. I was cutting through the trees to go to the main highway to see what happened. So as I was walking to the highway, into the highway, something huge came right beside me and brushed against me. But the brush that brushed against me is not like a brush like somebody bumping into you. It's like it literally went through me. It was big, tall, massive. Uh, what people want to call a Bigfoot. It was that massive. It went right through me. Like part of it went right through me, and I started feeling weird. And I started walking out of that area, and I was feeling weird. Like it felt like something, like a form of something was trying to, I should say, possess me in some kind of way. All these bad thoughts were coming to my head, and I started praying the Our Father, and I didn't go directly home. I went to the park, sat down on the park bench, and I kept on praying and praying for God to cleanse me from the negativity that burst up against me. So as I kept on praying and praying and praying, I became better. So that's when I started putting two together, that some of the things that the people might think are real, it's really the DDN that's trying to mimic, right? Because they mimic, or if they've been here longer since the beginning of time, so they're not really mimicking nothing. They're just being themselves. It's just people have given them names over the years. Some people call them Bigfoots. Some people call them Dogmen. Some people call them Mothmen. Some people call them Botonegros in Spanish culture. They're like big shadow figures with red eyes. Yeah, I believe I have some pictures that I took when I went not too long, like 2 weeks ago out there, where I captured this red eyes looking at me. And I have some images how they look like a dark shadow, but with red eyes. Which is demonic. I witnessed them all throughout my life, actually. When one of them attacked my grandfather, we had two chicken coops. I was like 5 years old. He was already old. He was like almost 80. And we already collected the eggs from one of the chicken coops. And we're going to the bigger chicken coop, which was like a little log cabin. So he went in there, and you could hear the chickens clucking, and he started screaming. So I was trying to figure out what happened to my grandfather. Uh, as I went in, I see my grandfather elevated in the air, and scratches were just coming out of nowhere on his body, and he was getting big cuts. And as he was getting cut, he was bleeding, and he was screaming. As I looked, I seen this dark, we call him bultos, but a dark shadow, and he had you could see the silhouette of it, and he had red eyes, and he was looking at me. And as I locked eyes with it, it dropped my grandfather, and when he seen me, he lunged at me and he became like in the form of smoke, or like a dark spirit, right? But in the form of smoke, and he was coming straight towards me, and I could feel the heavenly presence of the Father. I was still a kid, I was still innocent, so it went out the window. It went out the window, and all that the black smoke went out the window that was to my left. After that, my grandmother and my uncles get there, and they're trying to find out what's going on. I'm just telling them, Bulto Negro, Bulto Negro. I'm just a kid. Try to tell them a dark shadow. So they had to take my grandfather to the hospital, and he got stitches all over his body, his face. But he just told them that it was a possum that did that. That's not what I witnessed.
That's crazy. That's just unbelievable. It really is.
Yes.
And I tell people, I sent the link out there for the lecture, and I wanted to correct somebody out there. I was trying to find, and I'm bad with biblical references, and I'm not trying to get religion involved.
Yes.
But Revelation 12:7 speaks of war that broke out in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon.
Did he just freeze?
No, I'm here. I'm listening.
No, did he just freeze?
Oh, I believe so. As soon as he talks about the Bible, that's what happen. Normally happens when you try to bring something in nature. I'm just sharing my story through my experiences,
Right.
and
Well,
all
what's
that's
weird is that he's running this broadcast. Okay.
yes, it's within the Bible. Everything I believe. Well, I have a cousin. He was very spiritual. He was into religion, and there's certain passages through the Bible where it talks about something that lives in the thickets and in the bushes. Some kind of creature. It also states something like that, but we can look at a lot of things. Like the legion that went into the herd of the pigs, and there's a lot of swine, right? Javelinas live in the woods, or they can go to the story of Lilith, where I had children that live in the woods also. But the DDN, to me, would make the most sense because they have those abilities to. They don't need, they don't have to manifest into a creature. They can manifest into anything that they want.
Right.
That's why they're that more dangerous. And when people talk about a Bigfoot, and I've heard what people said that they've shot at a Bigfoot, bullet go right through them, nothing happens. It just hits a tree, or even a dogman that they go shoots right through them to hit a tree, or that they disappear or go into a tree and then they're gone.
Right.
We know that no animal that's here in the flesh that has that capability to do that. It's got to be something that's not from within our realm. Yes, not from within our realm. I know they bring the identified flying object things too, but you got to remember, Lucifer, the angel of light, he can create those kind of hallucinations. Just like I said, they just want somebody to believe in something. If they can believe it's a UFO, I mean, I've seen this identified flying objects doing figure eights in the air and just take off into the atmosphere. I've seen them flying when I was in the military. So it's it's the belief factor. That's what it's about. The belief factor. If it can get you to believe in it, then it kind of got you where it wants you.
I was telling you before when you were talking about that it goes from person to person. Azazel is one of those, through speech, through frequency, through touch.
Yes.
Travels. There's a Denzel Washington movie called Fallen.
Yes.
And in there, it's the demon Azazel. I also think that that Arizona is that's where one of my former handlers is. He's now lives in Lake Havasu in Arizona, but the abbreviation is AZAZEL, right?
Yes.
The abbreviation for Azazel. I have a show with David Zublik. Do you know who David Zublik is?
No, ma'am. I do not know.
Okay, David Zublik has been in the disclosure industry since the 90s, and we talk about everything from we're going to be having some of the people from the Ohio train derailment on the show tomorrow, and I'd like you to, if you'd like to, be a guest on our show. It's called the Dark Outpost.
The Dark Outpost.
Yes, my name is Penny L.A.Shepard. I'm going to give you my phone number. You don't have to write it down. You can just go back and watch this again.
Yes.
Or you can text me. My name is...
You can send it through Messenger if you like.
Yeah. And you're Abe, SIAS, correct?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Right. So
I've been having my own group called Spiritual Encrypted Encounters, but my original group was called Positive Spiritualist. When my account got terminated by Facebook, I recreated it, and I still have my group's Positive Spiritualist, but everything had gotten deleted, all my pictures and my postings in my group, so I had to rebuild it back up, but sometimes people don't want to hear this, and I was on this site called Bigfoot Believers, and I guess it didn't like what I had to say, or so they just got me out of the picture because I want to continue to believe in the Bigfoot.
Nothing like censor.
So that's understandable, but it's not going to stop me from doing on my mission of what I'm trying to is just to awaken all my brothers and sisters to be careful when you're out there knocking on a tree or making Bigfoot yells, because the DDM will respond to you just so they can get that belief factor out of you. Once they get the belief factor, then they can attach themselves to you. I have people that investigators that actually gone there been doing that, and they say now they have a Bigfoot living in their home, but
Right?
it's that negative attachment that followed them into the home because it opened up. It's like they have a free invitation into the house since they're already believing in it.
Well, you're absolutely right about, utilizing the name of Jesus, because that just diminishes, they all sorts of entities.
And never
Yes.
fails, ladies and
He's back.
gentlemen.
It's a
Anytime-
miracle.
Anytime that'll bring up the word of God in spirit.
That's what we said.
As
soon as you start reading the
It
Bible.
always does. So usually, ladies and gentlemen, and Abe, usually I say my prayers. Usually I do douse the computer with holy water, which I have not done because I didn't think we were going to talk about anything like that.
Do it.
But I'm telling you, every time I speak, well, it even happened on your show, if you remember.
Yes, I do.
Yeah, it happens to me all the time when I go live.
I mean, I
yes.
have no power, so I'm like, using my remote kit for the woods and to go live out in the field. So, but there was no reason for me to get kicked off the show. So, anyway, sorry for interrupting. Go
It's
ahead.
awful when you get kicked off your own show, isn't it?
Oh well, hey, I had two good people on there to take it over, so I wasn't worried.
That's true.
Yes, I'm just trying to bring a different look at what it could be, that's out there, what I witnessed and experienced. Yeah, the worst thing that somebody can do, and I'll be honest with you, is to believe in it. Because if you start believing in it, then he already got you. Because when I started believing what I was witnessing was a werewolf, then it didn't show itself to me no more. That's when I started getting attacked physically and spiritually. I'm talking about I could hear footsteps running behind me, and I get hit. I'll fly 4 or 5 feet in the air, tumble and roll, stand up, and there'll be nobody there. I got hit through the front, to the side. So in the form, it's kind of like in the form like a demonic attack. Like a form of possession, like it's trying to possess you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I'm glad that the God guided me to forgive, because that's the opening I had. When you're dealing with something like this, you have to be very careful. Like I said, you can have no anger, hatred, fear. You have to maintain your love foundation if you're going to battle spiritually. Because, like I said, I had the weapons to be able to fight something physically, but how are you going to fight something physically if it's coming at you unseen, as in invisible?
Right.
Well, and God says He has made creatures seen and unseen. So
yes.
And a lot of people don't realize about the spiritual warfare that is always continually going on. And Abe actually did a study, and Penny, forgive me, because we never did look this up to get the actual medical reference paper they did, but they put people in an MRI, and what they did was they provided images, right?
Mm-hmm.
And during the images, they wanted to see what the brain would do on certain images. So they would just flash for like a second or so, maybe a second and a half. And what they did was they used religious objects as some of the pictures. And they noticed that when they showed a picture of a car and they show a picture of a cross, their brain activity increased.
Yes.
It awakened.
When you pray, the MRI showed that the brain activity changed significantly.
It does. So with that being said, I tell people that's into the paranormal field, whether it's Dogman, Sasquatch foot, especially even ghost hunters or ghost investigators, if you walk into a place and be negative, right, you're going to attract negativity. And you can actually manifest negativity in spiritual realm.
Yes, that's true.
And people don't understand that. And they watch TV and they're like, oh, I can go out and I can go on ghost investigations. And then I get emails like you do or texts, hey, man, something's attached to me, all this other stuff. Well, what do I do? And I tell them, I can give you all the resources and tools, but if you're not pure here in your heart and have faith up here, then what I give you is useless. So you have to actually find somebody in the area that can do it themselves. And I usually help them with resources like you do.
Yes, brother. I seen on the highway one day because at that time I had a blood clot on my left leg and I was walking with a cane and I was walking to the store for exercise to build up my left leg. I was like 34 years old. I'm like I'm a 34-year-old guy with a blood clot on my leg that I almost died in the hospital. So I'm walking on that highway and there's this man walking on the right side. There's African American walking on the right side, and I could see him up in front of me on the right side of the road. So as I'm walking, this is what I witnessed. I witnessed this man get picked up in the air by an unseen force, and he gets slammed on the ground. Right
Oh no.
as he gets slammed on the ground, he gets elevated up again in the air and slammed again. He got slammed 3 times on the side of the bridge. So I go parallel to him, walk fast as I could, and I'm looking, I'm yelling, "Sir, are you okay? Are you okay?" And I already know what I witnessed, that there's something there. So I cross the bridge. And I'm in the middle of the bridge, and I'm yelling at him, "Sir, are you okay?" So he gets up real slowly, and he comes towards me, and he's stumbling, and he gets right in front of me. His eyes look kind of reddish, and he looks at me, and this is what he tells me. He says, "Next time I see you, I'm going to kill you."
Oh wow.
And I'm standing on the bridge, and I'm not trying to focus on what he's telling me. No, fear was out of the equation, but I know that something attacked him spiritually, an unseen force. So I said, "Sir, come on, sir." I used my love foundation. "Come on, sir. Let me help you. Let me help you." And he's repeating himself again to me. Uh, Next time I see him, he's just repeating himself. So I said to myself, maybe the blows when he hit the side of the bridge of the rail, he might have. He's just repeating himself from the blow to the head that he got.
Right.
But I didn't see no cuts or nothing, so I'm helping him, and I take him away to across the bridge, and there's a store. I go into the store, and I tell him, "Stand right here." He's standing by the cashier. So I said, "I'm gonna go get you some water." So as I'm getting the water, this is what he tells the cashier. He says, "What's your name?" She said her name. He says, "Next time I see you, I'm gonna kill you." And she screams, and I said, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa!" It's like he don't know what he's saying. He hit himself on the head of the bridge. So I grabbed the water that I got and I start praying over it for God to bless it. So I opened up the water after I prayed for the Heavenly Father to bless it, and I gave it to him. When I gave it to him, he drank the water, and next thing you know, he's like a whole different person. And he's looking at me, and he's looking at the water, and he says, "Thank you, sir, for the water." And I asked him, what happened that you was walking? I said, "Well, I would just say I was just walking home, and because my vehicle ran out of gas." But he don't remember what he said to me, what he said to the clerk. He don't remember me helping him across the bridge. He just told me, "Thank you for the water."
Wow.
Because I
Yeah.
believe that he was demonized, but whatever
Yeah.
attacked him, demonized him. And he was so close to the woods that it could have easily, if he could have the energy to lift him up in the air. I don't know what kind of openings he might have had, but to lift him up in the air and slam him that hard, he must have had a lot of openings. So he could have easily dragged them into the woods, and nobody would have known about it. Not unless
Yeah.
if I wouldn't have been there on that road. That's why I
Oh,
say to a lot of people that there's a lot of people that are missing, and I could see how, because I witnessed what happened to that man and the things that I've been through.
and a
It's just
lot of
it's,
people will look at us and say we're crazy. That never happened. You're making shit up and all this other stuff. But until they encounter it themselves, and then they're like, "What the hell? This is actually real."
Mhm.
Yes, the Bible is said it is complete. Unfortunately, it is not. It is made, put together by man. I was interviewing because I have a lot of people on my admin teams for all my groups, which you're a moderator of one of them or some of them.
yes,
Ron Moorhead. I got psychics. I have mediums. I have
yes,
police. Everybody. I mean, anybody in the paranormal realm that has experience, encounters, it investigates, that's got some tenure, that's got some knowledge, right, to share. And that's what we're about, is sharing everything.
yes, sir.
But if you do not have an open mind and think about, if you believe in good, you have to believe in evil. If you believe in yang, you got to believe in, or yin, you have to believe in yang. And a lot of people don't want to talk about that. So, and it's sad. Go ahead.
Yes, with all the things that have been happening in the past years within our country or around the world, the DDN be running loose. There's verses within the Bible of events like this happening, and they've been running loose through people with spiritual openings. You could say like a form of possession, or we lost somebody else.
Hey, Penny, we just lost Penny. Penny,
Oh, wow.
you if you're listening. I guess it was your turn since I talked about demons again. So, Penny, thank you. I'll get together with you tomorrow if you're still listening. I'll touch bases with you. It's amazing. I mean, every time we talk about spiritual stuff, this happens to my guest or my co-host.
Yes, there's a lot of spiritual, what I've experienced and what I've seen. I've been around the world. I've experienced some things where I could tell you a story where I'm in Germany. My first duty station was Germany. I was 19 years old, and I was going to go to the bar because over there was no legal age. So long your head is you're higher than the bar, you're able to purchase a beer. I said, a little kid, so I'm going to the bar, and when I open the door, it's the same scenery. Just smoke comes out of there and a bunch of drunk GIs. So I say to myself, you know what? I'm just going to go back to the village, watch a movie, and buy me a pizza, calzone pizza. So when the door closes, there's this man standing right behind me, like literally like maybe 2 foot away from me. And as he's standing behind me, he's looking at me, I'm looking at him, and he says, I know who you are. He's got an umbrella because it was cold, and he had a hat and he had a coat, long coat. I said, you know who I am? He's talking in a different accent. I said, if you know who I am, who am I? He said my full name, my real name is Abram. He said my name and my last name. That's like, no, it's just coincidental. And he said, where I'm from. And I'm like, how does this guy that's in a different country know who I am? I said, okay, tell me something else that you might know about me. He started naming my grandfather, my grandmother, my mother, my father, my brothers and sisters in a different accent.
Oh, yeah. No,
so I'm standing there looking at him, and he's looking at me. And my spirit at that time, told me, walk away. So I walked away from him. I didn't want to know who he was or what it was. So I just walked away and left that alone. At that time, I guess, I wasn't drinking or nothing. So I would have been able to try to fight spiritually, but whoever it was, knew too much things about me and knew everything about me, basically. To this day, I never found out what it was or who it was.
And that's really, concerning, because a lot of people, hear us talk about it, and they're like, man, these two guys are nuts.
This is the 80. This is like in 89. They didn't have the technology back then to be able to know who you are or where you're from. There was no Facebook, none of the things that are here right now. Back then, I think there were like walkie-talkie phones.
Yeah, and
that technology wasn't available then.
We had to go to the local library. Yeah, we didn't have Google's, ladies and gentlemen. We didn't. So, he's right.
And I was in a foreign country, and this guy's talking in a different accent and knows all this information about me. How could that be? I didn't want to know. I never found out who he was or what it was. It just seemed weird to me, so I just walked away. Could it possibly be that maybe like, not like that, like the FBI, maybe some kind of government from over there might have the capability, but to name my grandmother, my grandfather, and everything about me, my brothers and sisters to the T, without making a hesitation or looking at anything, and he's naming them just right on top of his head. It was strange, but I never found out. Like I said, I walked away and went back to the village.
Well, and that's the thing, is that a lot of people don't think about stuff like that. And when it happens to them, they freak out and then they don't know what to do. So it is. I'm so glad that you actually got to make it on the show. I've been trying to get you on my show for a while, ladies and gentlemen. That's actually the truth. And here comes the gremlins again, messing with my stuff. So
yes, brother. Anytime you want to do a show, I could tell you about other experiences. I've been fighting spiritually for a very long time. How it all started with me. So just it's about what you believe in. That's the key. What you give power to. When you believing in something, is you're giving power to it. So you have to be careful. Like you said, the yin, the yang. You got to be careful what you.
I mean, you're absolutely right. But and thank you so much. And, oh yeah, absolutely. I'll definitely have you back on, Penny. Good night back in La La Land, wherever you are in Texas.
Nice meeting you, Penny.
And finally, nice meeting you. I hear so much about you, and like I said, you're part of my team. So thanks for coming on. And,
thank you, brother.
We'll do this again. That's great. I appreciate it. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Abe. And what he's talking about is for real. He knows his stuff. And look at the storm, what it did to my beard. It's like it's puffy and everything. I'm sorry. I should have put stuff in it, but we are broadcasting live in the dark. Thank you, A, for being a live guest. It's been wonderful. Anytime we have open mic night, anybody is welcome to come on the show at any time. All you got to do is send me a PM on Facebook, and I'll send you the link. And yeah, you can come live. You don't have to show your face if you don't want to. You can just do your audio only. We are actually broadcasting, I think, on 17, 15, 16 platforms, and I think 83 Facebook groups. So thank you, admins and moderators, for letting me go live in your groups. Love's appreciated. Make sure to like us and follow us. We will actually do this again. It was really interesting. Keep up with the questions. My email is, I'll put it back up on the screen. Let me know what you want for show topics. Who do you want on? What do you want to talk about? Now, if we're going to talk about spiritual stuff, let me know ahead of time so I can actually get things prepared. And that way I know to make sure and do my prayers and bless my computer and my surroundings, because unfortunately, I'm not giving credit where credit is not due. But, it is a coincidental incident, but I'm not saying that the benevolent had any part doing it. So, but thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for being live from coast to coast and around the world. This is Grizzly. I'm always on the hunt for real people, real stories, and real encounters. So we will talk to you soon. And hopefully everybody has a good night and take care. And make sure, like I said, send me those emails. Let me know what you want to do. I'll have you on my show. I love having people on the show. It's interesting. I'm still getting my studio set up, but we'll get there, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for your patience. You all have a good night. Godspeed. Take care.